Welcome to the Big Kickoff League of Ireland podcast with myself, Roy Shanahan, Nathan Doyle, and I'm delighted today that we have Stephen Henderson, former Cobh Ramblers and Waterford manager. Stephen, welcome to the Big Kickoff League of Ireland podcast.
Delighted to be here, big man. Thanks for asking me. I was a bit surprised.
No, absolutely delighted to have you on. I know you like to share an opinion, so this is the place we want you. So,
the opinion's got me into a lot of trouble over the years.
I will say, Stephen, I'm at the getting myself off Twitter because you know yourself, it's an absolute cesspool. But you're definitely one of the League of Ireland figures with the most active Twitter account, aren't you? It's great to see.
I've kind of kept quiet on it, to be honest with you. I've since I went out the game, I've been setting up my own academy down here in Cork, and what started as an interest, it consumed me now for the last few months, nearly a year now. So I haven't been able to be as active as I'd like to be, but Twitter is great, but like you say, it can have really negative connotations. I had some very negative stuff towards me for a long period of time, but it's great in relation to the game itself and the league itself. It's the exposure the league has got, and this type of stuff that we're doing here now. It's kind of reflective in the attendances. The attendances this year and before the pandemic, we could see a real rise, and I think social media had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was going to ask you, what are you doing? How are you keeping yourself out of trouble? But obviously, this academy is keeping yourself out of trouble.
Whether it is, because it just started off, as we said, in the pandemic. I had my son over there, and then someone asked me would I take another player, and then I took another player, and I really enjoyed seeing the process of young players and the different tools that we can use to make them better. Especially when I went to Shelbourne, in the academy role within Shelbourne, I was seeing an awful lot of stuff that really kind of interested me, because when I was manager of Cobh Ramblers, especially, and even with Waterford, we had to use young players. And I felt myself that I had to spend too much time on stuff that I shouldn't be spending on as a senior manager. And I was interested how this was happening, that the very basic elements of the game still had to be taught at that level. So I kind of had a look at it, and I could see why it was happening. So it was great to kind of have the time to sit down, have a look at it, analyse it, do some research on it, and then try and impact young players from as young as 8 years of age right up to senior players, and to see how we can make a difference. So like I said, it's kind of consumed me ever since. So I kind of started with 2, and we something like 52 players now, and we can see a real difference in them. But I'm not saying that's because of me. What I'm saying is because these young players have a huge appetite to learn, and we have fantastic talent on this island. Well, I think we have to nurture it. I think we go from A to D rather than A, B, C, D in this country. And, I think we have to have that process in place, age-specific development models that, believe it or not, it's not always about the football. It's about their athletic development. There's so much involved in developing a player. It's not just going out coaching sessions.
Yeah. When you look at that process, Steve, and a lot of the League of Ireland teams are obviously from 14 upwards. The big work is done with schoolboys, because when you're at 8, 9, 10, 11 years of age, you're developing how comfortable you are on the ball. Is that why we're seeing better players now coming through in the League of Ireland? Because there's a lot more people doing coaching courses, not just the FAI and UEFA coaches or badges, but there's all sorts of different techniques, and we'll talk about cover coaching and different ones like that, I suppose. Is it because coaches are going into these courses, learning, educating themselves better at the lower levels? Is that one of the reasons why that they're finding in the League of Ireland a better quality of player, do you think?
Well, yeah, I think we can't underestimate, and we shouldn't underestimate, the huge importance of grassroots clubs in relation to the development of football players. It's easy to say that they come into League of Ireland at 14, but very often what I'm finding is that the work done before they're 13 years of age will have a an impact on how far these players are going to go in the game. It's very easy to see a good player who has natural balance, who has natural coordination, who has a natural affiliation with the ball. And it's very easy to dismiss a young player who looks awkward. But the question, we don't ask the right questions in relation to why do they look awkward. What is the training that we're doing? Are we doing enough plyometrics for them? Are we doing enough quick feet work with them? Are we working on their fundamental motor skills? And this is the area where grassroots clubs really have a huge impact on the development of that player. And I think that's an area where we kind of overlook. Throwing them in at 14, you have to understand. Well, I seen players in Shelbourne who were playing under 13 and they were about 4 foot, and they come back to us at under 15 and they were 6 foot.
Yeah.
So the process of taking that 2 foot leap was having a huge impact on that player in terms of how he ran. Obviously, there was injuries getting incurred in that, but too often we're dismissing this player's ability because we don't understand the background of the kind of the physiology of the player and how their development and the maturing and how that's going through. So, but like you say, then, we have a lot of coaching courses going on now at the moment. There is an argument that some of them are getting thrown out like confetti. I think if you have a look at it, there's more UEFA coaches in this country than there isn't probably UEFA. I don't know, and we have to be very careful how we do that. But I do believe there's a huge market for that kind of the small sided game, of coach development, and it's something that we have to put a lot more time into, because if we can get and have a better understanding of how players grow, how they mature, give them the athletic, turn them into athletes first. There's loads of time to become a footballer, but let's turn them into athletes first. Let's give them all the tools. Let's give them all the basic tools to become an athlete, and then let them develop into whatever sport they choose. And if that's football, at least they have that athletic background to take them on to the next levels, and we won't be so judgmental going forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I could talk all day with coaching with you, but we're not going to go too deep into that because I might sneak you back on. We're going to have a coaching one in the next week or two, Stephen, so I might have you in with a couple of other coaches to discuss coaching within Ireland. Want to go on to a few of the topics in the League of Ireland this week. And Nathan, you're not on the podcast this week. I'm just going to keep talking to Stephen here.
Yeah, that's far away. Yeah. I'll dip out, but
no, I got to start with Stephen on this one. As you said, the crowds, the attendances are up. The interest is up in the League of Ireland, but also we're starting to notice fan behaviour. The more people are in, the more likely that there's going to be some sort of trouble. And with clubs all around the country putting out word that flares and bottles are not to be thrown onto the pitch, it's slightly worrying because this is not what Irish fans are known for.
Well, no, because we're not known for having Irish fans, really. The grounds have never been really full. I think an awful lot of clubs are getting caught out, to be brutally honest with you. I don't know if you were, I was. The amount that sold out. Now, I understand that, some of the sold out grounds, half the ground is closed and what have you. But it's still great to see that the sold out signs are coming up. There's thousands of people going to matches now rather than hundreds. And clubs, I think, have been caught out. We have to understand as well that the majority of these clubs are being run by very ordinary people like ourselves who have no real experience in dealing with mass crowds. So if you walk into a ground, you'll see a lad there and you're saying, if this kicks off here, he's not going, and you wouldn't expect him to go there. So I suppose what we have to look at now in relation to the sizes is that what are the police presence at these grounds? Very often the police presence isn't huge. Very often you can't see them. So yes, you may have some form of security company that will do your match day security for you and stuff like that. But most of this trouble seems to be happening outside the grounds as well. I don't know. I've heard a lot of trouble going on outside the grounds. And that's probably because there isn't a huge police presence. So I suppose we have to have a look at it and we have to accept and be grateful. I'm delighted that the crowds are going up, but we have to kind of grow with that. You can't sustain your security protocol for 1,000 people when there's actually 3,000-4,000 people showing up at your matches. So, obviously that's an added cost. Clubs will always try and reduce their costs in some way. But like you say, it was a very generic statement set out by all the clubs, by the majority of the clubs, and the wording was nearly the exact same. So this was obviously something that was issued to them by the FAI, and they all just sprung it out there on social media. But, it's very hard for the FAI to go finding clubs. I think it's been said before, when nearly every one of their promotional ads is fireworks or players in the crowd, and it looks absolutely magnificent. It looks absolutely magnificent. And if you could get it in some kind of controlled format, I don't know if that's possible or not. But they add to the occasion. They definitely add to the occasion. But like the FAI themselves will have to stop, throwing out all these
with the minute.
With the flares. Like they're saying, come on, this is the experience. Yeah, this is what it's like. It's brilliant. It's fabulous. All this atmosphere here. Oh, by the way, we can do it at the FAI Cup final, but you can't do it in your own ground. So, there just has to be a bit more dialogue there. Obviously, there has to be, the clubs are going to have to grow in relation to the size of the crowds that are growing with them. Some of the clubs are going to try and get away with it.
Yeah.
Make no bones about it. They're going to try and get away with it. But the consequence of that is probably what we see.
Yeah, Nathan, you've been at a couple of games this year. What's been obviously you're down Sligo, and there was a bit of trouble down in Sligo.
Yeah, there was.
I don't know if you were at that, but what did you hear, and what have you seen so far?
Yeah, there was some unsavoury scenes, and actually, like what Stephen was saying, a lot of them taken outside off the showgrounds involving it. But even like that, people, I was going to say a small group of Sligo and Dundalk fans, because that's a thing that comes up, doesn't it? That it's a minority, but even if we're looking at 20 or 30 people, that's still be a large enough group, and it's a serious incident waiting to happen. Which is a shame, because things like this, these videos leaking out, it's going to halt the great momentum we're seeing in the league so far, because we've talked about it, Roy, haven't we, even the first couple of weeks. The build up to the league this year has been excellent. The attendance has been brilliant. The atmosphere is great. The on-field play as well, bar a couple of questionable defensive moments throughout the leagues. It's been a really, really high standard. But things like this will halt the momentum, and it'll stop people, particularly families, people with young kids, couples, things like that. Because you're always going to get your core fans that are going to come down regardless. But again, it's all about making the league attractive, and if we're going to be seeing this, because unfortunately this is one of the things that the league always makes the mainstream media for, isn't it? It's always when there's trouble at games or violent incidents at games. So we really, really do, because I do agree with Stephen. The FAI is trying to find himself in a place where they're trying to have their cake and eat it, where it's, oh, look how great the atmosphere is, but it's also, they're trying to stamp out this behaviour. And while they should, I've said it before, I wrote articles all of it before, I'd be an advocate of pyrotechnics. I enjoyed my games. I think it built the atmosphere nicely. It's a shame when they're in the hands of wrong people, they can turn nasty. We've seen it at the Cork and Bray game a couple of weeks ago. They're getting thrown on the pitches, and it can be a danger to goalkeepers, players, and even other fans around them. But yeah, it is. I think a bit of an onus must also come on self-policing, but in the right sort of manner between the fans. Because as Stephen said, trying to up the security and up the policing at these games is going to be a significant cost to clubs that they just can't afford if we're being realistic. So it's trying to stamp that out between ourselves and to continue to grow, the good side of the league of what we're seeing, because it has been a really good start to the season in terms of attendance. Not only in the Premier Division but in the Fourth Division as well. It's been absolutely a joy to see. So it's a shame we have to talk about this. We should be talking about the positives of the league, but it's something that we're going to have to stamp out, and I think self-policing is something that we will have to look at within reason.
Yeah. We need to call someone a gobshite and tell them to cop on to themselves. Nathan, just your microphone, just pull it slightly away from your mouth. It's just a little bit close. We're going to go on to the league. And Stephen, Shamrock Rovers have already been beaten twice this season, which wasn't happening in the half season. And last year was a pretty tough thing to do within 4 games to beat Shamrock Rovers twice. What can you put a finger on why that is? Has the league improved? Are they just a target now? What do you think?
Well, yeah, of course they're a target, and they have been for many years. It makes no odds what league you're competing in. It's very, very difficult to win it, let alone to try and win it 3 years on the trot. Shamrock Rovers are a quality side. What there is there are an awful lot of personalities within the squad, and that's a huge job for a manager and his coaching staff to try and manage those egos. There's some really top players, and we cannot underestimate the fact that the likes of the Derry Cities and the Sligo Rovers and the St. Patrick's Athletics and the Dundalk are not going away anytime soon. This league is as competitive as it has ever been. There's an awful lot of quality teams in it. There's an awful lot of very competitive teams in it. And what I say by that, even the teams down the bottom are competitive. Teams up at top are not so much looking for top four. They're looking to win the league. Shamrock Rovers players, it's very hard to really kind of drive yourself when you've been so successful. How can you do it? And it defines you, not just as an individual, but as a team and as a club. And I think Rovers will win the league this year. I think they will get their house in order. A little bit surprised that they lost too, but they will get it together because there's too much quality in that team, and they still have some fantastic leaders, the likes of the Finns and McManus and Gold. There's some really good boys there who are capable of doing a manager's job for the manager when it needs to be done. They're invaluable, those type of players. So I'm delighted that they've lost the first two matches, not because I'm anti-Shamrock Rovers. I'm delighted for the league. Stephen. You know what I mean? I'm delighted for the league. I'm delighted that, hang on a second, they're not going to steamroller this. This is going to be really competitive. This is going to go the whole hog. And you can say that Derry, it's only their fourth year together, but this league is synonymous with changing your players year in, year out. And, we don't think the managers in this league get enough credit for that. That, you put a squad together and just as you're about to take off, someone comes in, takes all your best players, you have to go and you have to start again. Rovers haven't had to do that. They managed to keep them on and add. But Derry City and Higgins looks like a really, really good lad in terms of his personality. He seems to be a really nice man, and it looks like players will really play for him. That Derry, when they get on a roll, they're very hard to stop. It's such a horrible place to go up. It's an awful long distance to go up there. The Brandywell crowd are absolutely magnificent for that team. And, I wouldn't be surprised if Derry pushed them all the way. And I think if anybody's going to win it, no, sorry, Nathan, I think if anybody is going to win it, it won't be Pats, it will be Derry.
Break me little heart, Stephen.
But it's going to be, I think it's going to be a great league. But I do think, Stephen this year, more than any, is going to find it really difficult managing that group. I think, you know what I mean? I think it's going to be hard for him, but I think if anybody can do it, he can, because he's kind of embedded in that culture. That culture has been made by Stephen.
Well, like you said, Stephen, he has a huge squad, but that squad is full of quality. So if they're not winning games, people are going to ask questions. Like Graham Burke isn't getting in, but he's scoring goals when he's coming in. So he's going to start asking questions if he's not in that team. So this is something that he hasn't had to deal with before.
Well, no, but you see, the problem there was if Burke come in and he wasn't scoring goals. That's when Stephen would have a problem, because that would mean Burke didn't care. You know what I mean? So, the fact that Burke is coming in, he's not getting regular game time as much as he wants. He's coming in and he's still producing. So that's a good sign. I don't see that as a negative. I see that as a good sign.
But will he in the next 10 games if things aren't going right? Do you know what I'm saying? That it's possible that...
Yeah, well, you see what I'm saying to you is this, that if Burke continues, then he plays himself into the team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He plays himself into the team. So there's obvious reasons why he's not getting the game time, because we can have an opinion on a player. We think he's a great player. We've made our mind up. He's a great player. And then he's not playing, and we're saying, why is he not playing? Because he's a great player. You are not privy to what's going on in the background. You don't know what's happening within the training pitch. You don't know what's happening within the dressing room. You don't know if there's issues going on in family life. You know what I mean? We just make a snap decision that this player is a great player, he should be playing. Stephen Bradley knows why he's not playing. And Burke knows why he's not playing. And that's the real issue. But when Burke comes on and he makes a difference, that's a good sign. When Burke comes on and he's not showing any interest, that's probably when Stephen will start worrying.
Okay. Nathan, you were at the Pats Rovers game, were you?
Yeah, oh yeah, Jesus, 10 miles a waste of breath you're never going to get back right.
Yeah, I don't know what you'd be at half the time, Nathan. All right, you're down the back. I don't know how many trains come back from Sligo. I don't know what's happening.
You'd walk up that N4, I have to. It wouldn't bother me in the least.
Did you see Shamrock Rovers this year that were any way different, or did you see same Pats that were any way different? Because again, after 3 games, Pats were being questioned.
Yeah, they were. It was a massive result for Pats, even though it's very early days in the season. We won't get too ahead of ourselves, but not only the results but the performances against Sligo, and particularly Bohemians, were extremely underwhelming. The Bohemians game, from a St. Pat's fan, it was one of the worst performances I can remember since probably when we got knocked out of the cup against UCD when Harry Kenny was in charge. That was a couple of years back now. So yeah, very very important. Again, we're seeing Chris Forrester mature into a nice player. He's changed up his game in the midfield. Himself and Jamie Lennon had a nice partnership forming there. They're starting to sit a little bit deep. We had Adam O'Reilly get his first start for the club. He's on loan from Preston. We've seen him at Waterford last season. He was really really good in the midfield. Joe Redmond, another centre half, went under the radar for Pats. He's been very solid. But if we're looking at Shamrock Rovers on the day itself, that being there, it sort of goes back to what Stephen was saying. It looks like it's the harmonious nature within the group just isn't quite there at the minute. Danny Mandrea was taken off quite early. He wasn't happy to go off. Jack Byrne really just was missing in the game completely. So if I was looking at Shamrock Rovers this season, I know I could talk about the strikers, and the right back position is one as well that's shocked, isn't it? Full of talent. But for me, it's the midfield, because I think it's extremely difficult if you look at Shamrock Rovers midfield to get Jack Byrne, Richie Towell and Danny Mandrea in that same system, and they're obviously the 3 marquee names in that squad. Because for me, the only midfielder that can sit deep in that Shamrock Rovers team and consistently stay there is Gary O'Neill. So he's an absolute focal point in that midfield, and he'd be a regular starter for me. So it's trying to shift him, those 3 guys, and the likes of Ronan Finn and Dylan Watts as well, who would walk into any other team in the League of Ireland, for being honest. So yeah, look, while it's only early days, these are all interesting tidbits that Stephen Bradley's going to have to work out.
Stephen, Chris Forrester or Jack Byrne, if you had to pick one to go into your team, who would you pick?
Oh, you have to stop your nonsense there. Oh my God. Yeah. Where do you go with that? Both of them on their day are just genuine joy to watch. That the nutmeg Forrester come up with against Shelbourne, he deserves player of the month for that alone. I seen that and I said he didn't do that, and then I seen it in the replay, and he rolled it with his studs under his legs on the edge of his box, and I got, oh my God. You know what I mean? It's phenomenal. But both of them in relation, the range of passing that both of them have, it's just absolutely phenomenal. And it's worth the entrance fee alone just to go out and see one of those boys hitting one exquisite pass. And it's so difficult to separate them, to be brutally honest with you. It's just so difficult to separate them in terms of who's better than who. Obviously Chrissy, he's more experienced now. He's went through a tough time. I think we're all aware of that. But he seems to be playing quite literally with a smile on his face. I think he was laughing in Talk Park. But he has this. He just seems to be loved. That he has that love of the game back. He's really enjoying himself. And when he's like that, some of the stuff he gets up to is phenomenal. He even scored. I think he scored with his head, and he scored a header against Shamrock.
Yeah. And you know what? It's one sign of his game that you never see, isn't it? His heading ability. It's
and what a header it was, Nathan. You know what I mean? Yeah. This is a proper centre forward's header. Buried into the net. I think that says it all about where he is at the moment. Jack. People forget Jack hasn't played in over a year. You know what I mean? The boy was injured, and he had a very serious back injury. And and I know better than most people. When you get a back injury, it's not nice. It's very debilitating. Obviously, when you have a back problem, there's so much things you can't do, and especially if you're a professional footballer. So it would have been very hard for him. So I would imagine, Jack has so much quality. He's going to show little flashes of it, but I would imagine it would be kind of the second series of games before you really see what the old Jack back injury. Please God, he doesn't get injured again. He can get his fitness. He can get his match fitness, and and look, I think we're just blessed to have the two of them in the league. To be honest with you,
Absolutely, because I think the league needs poster boys, don't they? They need people that for kids to look up to and go, "Whoa, I want to be that player," instead of looking across the water. Which obviously you should be looking across the water anyhow, because the level is fantastic there as well. Okay, First Division, Nathan. We'll just quickly go a run through on the First Division. Surprise is not that Waterford are top, but probably more of a surprise that Bray are stuck rock bottom at the moment, and we didn't expect to see that.
Yeah, see, because it was such an eventful off-season for them with the merger with Cobh and Teely. I think you predicted to win the league, right? Am I right in saying that? We had a little chat together.
No proof.
I could have been. Yeah, like they changed that tune now when they finished top of the table. Watch, I said it from day one, boys. Yeah, I wasn't too sure about them coming in. Like, don't get me wrong, it's probably one of the most the deepest squad in the country when you bring the two of them together. For the First Division, really, really is. But yeah, some of the surprise, and not only that, but I think it was against Cork City at the opening day. They were absolutely spanned 6-0 against them. The Dylan McGlade show that day. Now, in fairness, they did get off to a tough start fixture-wise with Cork and Waterford, so that's not going to help them either. I think they're playing Galway next as well, so that's not ideal either. But again, with these sort of things, you have to give a full round of fixtures to see how they kick on, especially when you do have a break, Cobh, Teely, whatever we're calling them now, with so many chopping and changing throughout the off season. And even I was right in saying there's still actually not a manager there set in stone. I think Pat Devlin is there, but I think they're still waiting to appoint a manager, aren't they?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. And that's not going to help their cause. Someone who has been brilliant so far is, or some team, is Treaty, Stephen, and they've been just sent from the heavens, really. It shows you that you don't have to have big budgets to be able to create a bond in a team and a working ethic, I suppose, within a group. And there's been a fantastic job done down there, hasn't there?
Yeah, Tommy. Tommy, I don't know if you know Tommy Barrett, but he's genuinely one of the nicest people you'll meet. He has a background in care and, looking after underprivileged and what have you. So you have to have a certain personality to do that. But to be able to bring that kind of personality into a professional environment, which he has done with Treaty, there is a really close bond amongst those players. There's no egos. They understand their limitations, which is hugely important at any level of the game. You have to understand your limitations. Treaty do. They have their strengths. They play to their strengths. Very difficult to beat. And they have some match winners in the team as well. So, they've been incredible. Last year was a fantastic season for them. And I think we'd all be agreed that we need a vibrant Limerick club represented in League of Ireland football. I think everybody, irrespective of what their name is, Limerick needs to be represented. And that team is representing that county magnificently at the moment. Was it 4 points from 6?
4 points from 6, and if you look at how they were set up last year, it was lastminute.com that he hadn't got a team nearly a week or 10 days before the league. He grabbed a whole load of players from here, there and everywhere, and the style of football that they had last year was effective, but you can see it evolving now. You can see them that they're starting to gel now, and he's getting a good bond together. Nathan, I'm going to move on from Treaty because there's been a lot of talk about the Pats and Bows temporary ground share, but there's been a bit of word on Dalymount today. Give us the whole lowdown, because this is something that we might have predicted.
Yeah, it's something that we did touch on, isn't it? Especially when you're dealing with the Dublin City Council, or any council really, in fact, when it comes to, planning stages and trying to get permission. And we even said, there could be a stage where we could have Dalymount and Tolka Park be in limbo for the next 10 years or so. And yeah, so look, we'll just run through. If this is coming out of the latest Dublin City Council meeting, and it's regarding the process, the future process of the redevelopment of Dalymount Park, and it said that the process is now uncertain until they receive clarity on a large-scale sports infrastructure fund application. So, there was a statement released for. I know you've seen it as well. And
I was going to say, talk to us in English there.
Yeah,
Nathan.
it was lengthy, wasn't it? Yeah. So I tried to put it in Dublin layman's terms. So we'll see how we get on with it. So yeah, pretty much the Dublin City Council applied for a grant of over 1 million. And they were awarded almost 920,000. So that was for the design process of Dalymount Park. So that was it until the stage. No other grants have been received for the Bohemians redevelopment to Dublin City Council. So as we know, Roy, we talked about before, the redevelopment as a whole, it was something like it's just around 35 million, isn't it?
Yeah.
35 million euro it's going to cost. So the Dublin City Council need to provide 30% of that, which is almost 25 million. But the application for the current large-scale sports infrastructure fund grant, that's an absolute mouthful to say. I hope that doesn't come up again. And that's now closed, and they now Dublin City Council now have to come up with that 25 million if they were to receive any other grants of that kind. So yeah, it's definitely cause for concern for Bohemians fans, especially because, let's be honest, this Dalymount, the process has been strenuous. If you're looking at the cost of it, I know the crowd, the attendance, not the attendance figure, the capacity figures dropped down drastically as well. I think it's down to 6,000. So yeah, it really, really is. And for me, you're going to be looking at a stage where we could be looking at this sitting in limbo for the next 10 years or so, which from a Bohemians point of view, well, not only that, but from a League of Ireland point of view as well, it's a real shame to see, because in a world where we have a redeveloped Dalymount Park and a redeveloped Tolka Park, and we have Tallaght Stadium, a fantastic ground within Dublin, it can only benefit the league. And we're seeing it as well with Sligo Rovers and Finn Hart. We talked about this a lot, that there's work being done there regarding the facilities as well, and yeah, it's absolutely vital. And this is a massive blow to Bohemians in terms of the redevelopment of Dalymount.
Yeah, I'm not sure your maths was quite right there with the percentages.
I wouldn't say so, no.
But we'll move on as if that wasn't a problem.
I tried to check it out there.
But in other words, they still have a hell of a lot, and they're after missing out on a deadline that they shouldn't have. Stephen, listen, I suppose a lot of League of Ireland fans will be pessimists because they've seen and heard all this sort of stuff before. What's your thoughts on the whole development thing? First of all, it was to try and get rid of Tolka and put the two teams in together. Shelburne fans didn't want that. The second thing was it went from 10,000 down to 6,000 and went from 10 million up to 30 million or whatever it was. So I think a few people have been discussing this slightly on a negative term, albeit hoping and wanting to be positive that this is going to go through. And this is just another sign that maybe that negativity is founded, I suppose. Well,
it is founded because it's happened too many times in the past. Ask Finn Harps where they are with their new stadium. Ask Drogheda United where they are with their new stadium. You know what I mean? This is an ongoing thing that's regular occurrence. It's just unfortunate that two of the most historical grounds in the whole country are subject to this kind of stuff. Dalymount, obviously, you'd love to see it redevelopment of that ground. She needs it. She badly needs it. Now, I'm originally from Cabra, so, I walk out my hall door in Cabra, I can see the lights, I can see the stadium. She's an iconic stadium, but yeah, you'd love to see her getting the facelift that she deserves. Likewise, down in Tolka, that ground needs to be saved as well. But obviously there's a cost and there's a history with this, and I'd love to know how the process of these grounds work. How do you start something and then leave it for 10 years? Certainly something of the scale of a stadium. You know what I mean? You're saying they're going from 10,000 to 6,000. When I was doing my pro license, we were over in Holland, and we went to a couple of the Premier Division games over there, and a lot of the grounds over there are between 6,000 and 12,000 all-seater stadiums, and some of them, the majority of them, are Astro pitches, and they're very much centred on community. And when we were going to the likes of Excelsior and places like that, Paxwalla was the ground we were in. It was a 12,000 all-seater stadium. The whole community around that used that stadium. Bottom one side of it was all the shopping centres. It was a shopping mall. It was coffee shops, an industrial park, and then the other side was obviously the football ground. The catering was a huge thing for Dutch football on match day. You know what I mean? These are all things that I felt that when we're looking at stadiums, Holland, not look at their football, not the real doctor thing. If every one thing we were going to look at in Holland, let's have a look at their stadiums. Their stadiums are designed perfectly for what Ireland need. They go from 4,000 to 12,000. Then obviously you have the Ajax ones that are, the Aviva kind of stuff. Yeah. What have you. But I just there has to be some form of an investigation. How you can go out in 10 to 30 million. How you have two clubs, then you have one club. How is all this setting? Who's in charge of? Who's the project manager? Who's been accountable for this? And too often, it's not just in football. It seems in our governments, there's no accountability anymore. You can literally start something, you can literally say something, and then gone, done, nothing. No accountability for it whatsoever. So I've only heard that news there now. I'm a bit shocked at that.
I take it a bit pinch of salt, Stephen. In fairness, I was like trying to take Latin, trying to take some of the information out of it. So, but it's mostly I'd say it's about 80% spot on. In fairness,
you know what I mean. But Latin, who's ever designing this must be Latin, because nobody seems to understand what's going on. And it's really sad, because we genuinely have a fantastic product here, but we have to stop going from a cult support to a national support.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And for us to do that, like our grounds, we love our grounds, right? We do. We love our grounds. They're historical. They're there, but they need redevelopment, and we need to go from cult setting to national setting. We need to attract more supporters in the gate. We're talking of the Forresters and the Jack Byrnes of this world. These people are going to bring people in through the gate. On the pitch, I think we'll keep them. At this moment in time, off the pitch is probably where we're going to lose them.
Yeah, and
as well, like I don't want to keep going back to, for Pat's point of view, but we've seen it ourselves, when they proposed Richmond Arena, what was rejected by Dublin City Council, and that was the same, Stephen. It was very community based, and over in the vacant lot of St Michael's Estate across the road from Richmond, which it was just the reasons that it was rejected for have just mind-boggling at the time. Where it seemed like it's going to benefit the Nathan.
I've seen the plans for that, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. That's the touch model. That's the stadium model that involves the whole community. And Inchicore would have embraced that. They would have loved it. Do you know what I mean? And the stadium, everything. That's exactly what we're crying out for. And I suppose now with the exposure the League of Ireland is getting, now that JD is no longer involved, and now we have an FAI who seem to be working towards, really building up this product. You know what I mean? We have to get the Dublin councils we have to get all the councils onto this
on board
and see that it's not a League of Ireland product. This is a community project.
Yes, and creates jobs as well, and we've got to focus on that as well. Nathan, just with that Pats project, that was the reason behind it. They were talking about building apartments and stuff like that. Nothing's happened, has it?
No, nothing at all. With St Michael's in the past, it was built up to all apartments, and it got a reputation, for a lot of high drug volume and crime rate and things like that. Where it's, and even not as a Pats fan, take myself away. Like I'm from Ballyfermot, which is just down the road from Inchicore, and I went to school in Inchicore. I socialised. I have a big affiliation to Inchicore itself. And just did see, when we first seen the plans, we were all in the Mansion House when the plans got released. We went to a night, could talk about it, how it would pretty much bring the community and Pats together. It'd be a symbiotic relationship, and everything seemed perfect, and there was no reason why Dublin City Council were going to reject it. But ever since it's gone by the wayside, and now we're hearing people talking. You mentioned there about the proposed temporary ground share between Bohemians and St Pat's, and you have Pats fans now looking at it as, oh God, this could be a way back into Dublin City Council's good books, where it
doesn't work like that.
It should not at all, and it shouldn't be the reason to do it. There should be no reason why these community hubs aren't being built up when solid proposals are being shown to councils around the country.
Yeah. the FAI have a strategy plan now set out. They've launched it with pride, and the biggest thing they talked about was the League of Ireland, backing the League of Ireland and making sure money was brought in. Begging, I think, was what they were doing. They're going to beg the councils, they're going to beg the government and everyone and anyone who they can put their hand out to. I would love to see how far they're going to get down the road with that. I'd love to know now if they've done any background work on that, or if this is just the wish list that we discussed before, Nathan. Nathan, we'll go on to back to football, and the Player of the Month award is up for grabs. Stephen's already given it to Forrester, but you try and make a case that it's not for him, even though you're a Pats fan.
No, I had to say, no, it wouldn't be for me. So this the February Player of the Month. Tough one to go for. So we'll run through the nominees, will we? Obviously, we start with Chris Forrester. It's probably been Pat's best player this season. I know he's Stephen's pick. Good man, Stephen. We'll take that anyway. Jack Byrne, another lad that we mentioned here. That game in particular against Drogheda United, he was. You could see the Jack Byrne of old, couldn't you, with that cracking goal and the assist. And he's only going to get better, Jack. And I'll actually be interested to see, can he find him back into the Ireland setup. I really, really think that. For me, he's head and shoulders the best player in the league on his day. So if we can get back to his old form and fitness, and we're starting to see there, there's no reason why he can't. Then we have Stephen Bradley from Dundalk. We were talking about him last week, weren't we? One of the early signs of the seasons, 4 goals in 4 games. We have Sligo goalkeeper Ed McGinty, 2 clean sheets in 3 games, pulled off some cracking saves. Jamie McGonigal from Derry City, another one that scored 2 goals. It was a vital goal against Shamrock Rovers in the last minute to pick up the 3 points there, and he's going to be an absolute massive cog in that Derry system if they're going to be successful this year. And then finally, Promise Omashiri, which was probably the one that stood out a little bit. Now we were talking about Roy earlier on. He's another one that got 2 goals, but sent off in the last game against Finn Harps. That might damper his prospects a little bit. So look, the official winner is going to be announced tomorrow, Wednesday the 9th of March. By the time this goes out, it's probably already been announced. So what do you reckon? Who are we going to go with? Stephen, are you going to stick your guns? Are you going to go with Chris Forrester? Or who do you think will
look at it? You know what? You go through every one of those players, and every one of those players have had a really, really productive month. It's no coincidence that there's no defenders there, by the way. Some of these defenders are absolutely horrendous. I've never seen anything like it. Jesus, but I'd say Forrester. I think Forrester, he's been magnificent. A lot of this is about personality as well. I just think he's a really, really good lad. He's a top quality footballer. He's playing the game with a smile on his face, genuine smile on his face, really doing a smile on his face. And just for the nuts on the edge of the box alone, I give it you can't underestimate what McGonigal's been excellent for Derry. Let's be honest, McGonigal's been really, really excellent. And Bradley, obviously, as you're saying, he's had to score an awful lot of goals. I don't think Promise is a shock. I think that's a huge boost to fill he had with Georgie Kelly. I thought he'd come in and he's been magnificent for them. He's still a young boy, and the sending off, was outrageous.
That's shocking, wasn't it?
Outrageous.
Yeah,
I didn't think so. The second yellow card, he threw his arm out. It's probably a yellow card. I mean, I don't know what the first yellow card was.
Yeah, you've been talking great, and don't start your nonsense now.
Letting yourself down 45 minutes in.
I like the nice firm tackles, I like the 50-50s. Okay, so you're going for Chris Forrester. You didn't say who you're going for, Nathan.
Stephen Bradley. Yeah, go.
Stephen Bradley.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Is anybody, do you think anybody missed out? Anybody that really could have gotten nods? Like I do agree with Stephen. There's going to be no defenders that's going to come up in this conversation. As good as the play has been this year. Like I was actually watching some of the goal of the months that was on that LOI TV, and as good as some of the strikes were, some of the defending was absolutely woeful. To
me, that's what I highlighted, Nathan. I think that's what I highlighted, that the quality of the goals were, the finishes were good, but some of it, you shouldn't be seeing her at this level of the game, is what I'm saying. That kind of defending, you shouldn't be seeing at this level of the game.
Stephen, just something that I noticed on quite a few goals, and I look back through different videos just on games this season so far. Corner kicks, tell me what your thoughts are on this. A lot of corner kicks defending corner kicks, teams do not have players on the posts. I find that baffling because the amount of times a ball just loops into a corner. I don't know. Listen, what do you think? Tell me.
No, like it's very much, managers have different perceptions of how you set up. The zonal is becoming very popular again now. Where they're not marking anybody basically. They're just marking zones. Man-to-man marking. I think you have to have someone on your back post. I do believe you have to have someone on your back post, and I do believe that if the front man who's defending the front post, near post corner, if that ball goes over his head, he needs to be jumping back onto a post. You're right, yeah. You know what I mean? But you're kind of hopeful that you defend the corner properly in the first place, and they're not getting something on dropping into the goal. But I fully agree with you. I think it's your post needs to be protected because the goalkeeper can only cover a certain area, especially from something that close.
And especially when they're asking the goalkeeper at times to come out and try and claim it or punch it, or if it comes in a 6-yard box like it did for Forrester, they were asking questions there. So if he's going to come out and commit himself to that, which he didn't in that occasion, but if he does need that cover behind him.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm not disagreeing with you at all. But some managers don't believe in it. You know what I mean? Some managers will actually put two up front. They look to throw players up the pitch rather than on the posts. I was always skeptical. I think you have to have really, really good aggressive defenders to be able to do that, to leave players up. And if you don't have really, really aggressive defenders, well, then I agree with you. Then you do need the players on the post because there's a high chance that these lads aren't going to win the ball. So you need as much as the goal protected as possible. Yeah.
Nathan, you want to give out a shout to Kieran Harkin?
Yeah, just a quick one here. I know fortunately injuries are part of the game, but Derry City midfielder suffered an ACL rupture in the win over Shamrock Rovers, and anything like that, ACL or the MCL, any knee injuries like that are quite serious and quite long term. Especially 2 games in, for Rory Higgins, he's going to have to really shuffle the pack. And since Harkin has come in, for me, he's been one of the most underrated midfielders, underrated players in general, even scrap that, in the league as a whole. And he's been an ever-present face in that Derry City team. So, yeah, look, while injuries are part of it and it happens, we see it a lot, with these niggly injuries, but there's something as serious as this, it's a shame to see. So, we think we just tip our cap, really, and just wishing the best, and hopefully we see him back sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. Now we're going to back that up with a fans question. As we said last week, not our fans, just fans in general. So go on.
Yeah. We usually have the one fan that out Ronan Kavanagh, don't we? He thinks the only. Shout out to you, mate, because fair play, you help us out. But anyone that is have a fan question or knows anybody, just get in touch with the Big Kickoff or yourself, Nathan Doyle. Right, Shanahan, just get in touch on social media because we're getting desperate. Not gonna lie, cards on the table. This week's was sent in by Mark Larkin, and in fairness to Mark, he left a little message, said enjoyed the show, enjoyed the little bit of Women's National League coverage last week. Right, he's looking for a little bit more actually. So that ties into Mark's question. Mark just simply wants to know, well, 1 week into the Women's National League, who do you think will win it?
It's a tough question because I'm not going to lie, I don't get to see enough of the Women's League. I'm going to ask a question. What do you think, and we'll come back to that, but what do you think is the best day, I'll ask Stephen, to have these fixtures on? Because it's free on LOI TV. The games are on Saturdays, aren't they?
Saturday afternoons.
Yeah, Saturday afternoons. I'm not convinced that that's the best time to have these games with, of course, the football that's across the water. So, Stephen, am I right? Am I wrong? Should it be moved to try and get the maximum viewers, or is Saturday fine?
No, when I was playing League of Ireland, Sunday was the kick-off. That was the day before all the floodlights come in and stuff like that. 3:00 Sunday afternoon. That was I think they probably need to explore a Sunday because the women's football has really taken off in this country. Well, it's actually taken off worldwide, but the quality of the game has improved dramatically over the last 2 years, I'd say. A lot of credit goes to the promotion, especially the senior team. There's some really good players on that senior team, and you'd love to qualify for a major tournament.
Yeah,
But
to kick it off further. Yeah,
the promotion there, there's a huge, even here. I'm down in Cobh. Cobh she's a small town, small island, and there's huge interest. The girls' game is grown hugely here with Springfield Ramblers, but that's reflective all across the country. And you'd love to get a time. We have to look at it. How many women want to look at Manchester United versus Manchester City when, they could be looking at a league where they could aspire to be in? So I think Sundays would be at what time now? I don't know. But I think if they move the women's senior division to a Sunday, I think, and they leave it there. You see, like, again, why, we have a habit in here trying stuff for 6 months or a year, didn't work, scrap it. We never give anything time to mature and, really drive it home that this is our day. Sundays, this is our day for Women's National League.
Yeah.
This is the time it's on go out and make this part of your weekend. This is part of now your weekend. So, like, I think Saturday, there's just too much going on Saturdays for families. There's too much going on in terms of sports. Sunday is the perfect day to really kind of give the girls the showcase they deserve.
Yeah. And to add to that as well, Stephen, like, it's like, I do agree, we have a tendency to drop things after 6 months, but the marketing push has to be consistent with that as well. We can't just expect people to know, right, Sundays at X o'clock is the time for Women's National League. We should be really pushing it into the faces, and so people have a genuine knowledge of that and keep that going for a couple of years on the trot, and hope
you see, and that's
100%,
Nathan, because and that's the problem for us. It's like that we want to establish people. Sport and anything we do, we love routine, don't we? As human beings, we love a routine. We love to plan things. Do you know what I mean? I look at how you plan out this show. You have an agenda, you plan it, you stick to it, you get it, bang, it's done, brilliant, right? And that's what it is. So, like, if you want to promote a game and you want to promote, we have to say Sundays is, say, 3 o'clock Sunday afternoon. I'm going to Talca Park. I'm going to watch Shells. Yeah, I know they're playing 3 o'clock Sunday afternoon. So my morning is based around this, and then it leads up to my 3 o'clock afternoon. Do I stay out and go out with the gang for a few pints after it? Do I go for dinner after it? Is there a family occasion? But that has to be consistent. That has to be allowed to feed into them. It's like the television here when we do RTE. We get a run of games. And then I find myself falling into I can't wait for the match. And then all of a sudden the match is gone on me. I'm going, What? Where's it gone? You know what I mean? So, like, we just try and get a level of consistency. Let's sit down. Let's say, look, at this is the match days. And I completely agree with you. I think Saturdays, there's too much going on to try and, especially when you're trying to really promote a newish kind of, game in relation to the women's game. It's really taken off in the last few years. Let's give them their own day. Let's really push it and not put them up against too much.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you before we go, are you still interested in managing in the League of Ireland or coaching in the League of Ireland?
You never say never, I suppose. Do you know what I mean? But, like, there has to be interest. There's obviously no interest at the moment. So, like, I'm doing this academy thing is something that I really I'm putting my heart and soul into. I really do enjoy watching these players develop. Right, I really there's a great buzz over it, and it's something that you don't get at senior level. You get a real appreciation from the player and the parent. It's not something I've ever got as a league manager. You're always called all the names under the sun. Nobody appreciates anything you ever do for them. They actually think you've done you a favour. But when you actually go out and you've helped someone and they say thank you, it's a huge buzz.
It's huge, yeah.
It throws you on. But, like, you never say never, do you?
No, never. Nathan, do you want to answer the fans' question? Because
Okay. So Mark is sitting here on bated breath, dying to hear the answer.
What was the question again, just out of curiosity?
Who do you think will win the Women's National League this season?
Oh yeah, Shells.
Shells. Do you know what? I'll throw. I get same as you, Roy. I'm not a massive connoisseur of the Women's National League. It's just a time restraint, isn't it? It's hard enough trying to watch the Women's Division and the First Division and stuff. But Yeah, it's nice to see that we get to even hit the highlights now on LOI TV if you missed a game.
And that's where we're going to gain our knowledge at the moment, really,
yeah,
isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, like even I'll be honest, mate. We start doing this show. Even my fourth division knowledge was quite low and limited, but it's that's where you have to pick up these things. I suppose. Look, Peabody got off to a great start. They battered Sligo Rovers. That was their women's National League debut, so it was to be expected. So, yeah, I think just to go against the grain of what Stephen said, I'll go with Peamount. Yeah.
You're actually not going against the grain, because
not at all.
Peamount are absolutely phenomenal in relation to the women's game here. They're probably the top team in this country. And I suppose if you ever wanted a promotion, I think it was the last game of the season last year where Peamount needed to beat Galway.
Yeah.
And you know, they were beating them 2-1 or 3-1, something handy, and Galway actually come back and beat one of the best female teams this country has ever seen, and beat them 5-3. And then Shells went on to win it. So if ever you wanted to promote a game, we can talk about social media, but these girls actually promoted that game beyond belief in relation to the performances all those teams put in that day. Do you know what I mean? So it's important that momentum is continued, as you say. But I think it will definitely come down between Shells and Peamount again this year.
I actually remember that game in particular. Anya O'Gorman in the midfield was absolutely stellar on the night, wasn't she? She really was.
Look, she's fantastic. She's a fantastic player. But the game itself was phenomenal. I watched the whole game. I only wanted to watch 10 minutes.
It was great.
I couldn't take my eyes off it.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. Stephen, it's been a pleasure talking to you again, because we had you on the radio show a couple of years ago, I think it was. Nathan, always a pleasure to talk to you, otherwise you wouldn't be on the show. And of course, I want to thank everyone.
Clown review.
I want to thank everyone who's listening on the podcast. And again, if you want to look at our ugly mugs, you can see us over on YouTube doing the podcast, and vice versa. If you're sick of our mugs, we're on the podcast, and if you're on the go, you can listen to us there as well. We'll talk to you next week.